This video will contain Bionicized spoilers for Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2. The last thing I want to do is rob someone of experiencing these stories blind, so if you haven't played these games and do not wish to be spoiled, then go sink over 100 hours into these games, and then you can come back and watch. But if you have beaten both games, or do not care for spoilers, then welcome. Let's begin. I absolutely love the Xenoblade Chronicles series. The characters, the world, the art, the music, oh my god, the music! It all culminates into a beautiful series that has been rising in popularity as of late. My first experience with the series came in the form of Nintendo Power Volume 276, which spotlighted Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance, but contained a short section on Xenoblade Chronicles. This was during a phase of high school when I was thinking, yeah, I'm down to experience some new franchises. And then I didn't pick it up until next year's Black Friday when GameStop was selling Xenoblade Chronicles and Metroid Prime Trilogy for $40 each. I picked up my copy, and like an idiot didn't play it for another year until 2014 when rumors of Shulk coming to Super Smash Bros. For the Wii U and 3DS were running amok. I booted up the game, was blown away by the title screen, and kind of fell off for a little bit due to the different combat and graphical quality. And then... It was history from there. Xenoblade Chronicles gripped me within the first 2 hours with an incredibly powerful cutscene that broke the hearts of fans, but immersed them into the universe. The game was centered in a world where life forms live upon the dormant bodies of two titans, and Shulk is the main character. The core of Xenoblade Chronicles focuses on Shulk's journey for revenge against an army of mechanical beings known as the Mechon. Over the course of the game, Shulk grows as a person and finds out more about himself, like who he is his thirst for revenge really right, and how he should be more open to his friends. And of course, a huge importance is placed on the mystical sword he carries, the Minato, which gives him the ability of foresight. I was a freshman at college when I played, and completed Xenoblade, and I owe a lot to it. The game helped me deal with a lot of personal and adjustment issues, as well as shape my outlook on life, that maybe it's better to not know what lies ahead of us, and that the future is best tackled with those we love. I did not expect Xenoblade Chronicles to become one of my favorite games, and I could keep going on about everything I love about the original, but that's a topic for another time. However, I do think it is important to see the significance that the original title has, and why fans love this game. Xenoblade Chronicles X was teased as early as 2013, and officially released in December of 2015. The general hype leading up to this game was pretty high, given the strong impression the first game left on people. I bought the game, and it was alright. While X's focus might be totally fine with some people, it didn't really sit right with me and others, since the story of Xenoblade Chronicles was the main aspect that everything else in the game worked so well with. Some of the songs like Melancholia, So Nah, So Fern, Uncontrollable, and Noctilium are pretty awesome, and that was a cool character, but overall, Xenoblade X left me disappointed. A good game, but not for me. Fast forward to January 2017, when I'm in a Discord call with several of my friends as we are anticipating the beginning of the Nintendo presentation to give us more information about the Nintendo Switch, and maybe some games to expect throughout the year. Alright, another game! What the hell? No, wait a second. Are we getting Xenoblade Chronicles 2? X just came out in 2015, there's absolutely no way. Holy crap, there's no way. And the Red Swords too? It has to be, like, come on, that's the most Xenoblade thing you could end with. Holy shit. I was officially pumped. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 gave me the same vibes of a fantasy land with booming colors, character focus, and a world based on living beings that the first game left me with. Trailers continued to come out for the rest of the year leading up to its December 2017 release, which only had me more excited to find the return of United Kingdom accents, story focus, and so on. I remember distinctly hearing fan discussions, articles, and interviews with director Tetsuya Takahashi that referred to the game's connection to the original, with responses like this interview from IGN. It's a completely different world, with completely new characters. It's a different game. The way I see it, I feel as though Xenoblade 1 and 2 are connected and linked in the sense that they're linear and story-driven games, whereas Xenoblade Chronicles X was more focused on open world and exploration. Maybe an online aspect. I feel like I'd like to continue to create games separating those two aspects out. Or in this article from Nintendo Insider, saying Monolith Soft studio head Tetsuya Takahashi has clarified that Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is not a direct sequel to Xenoblade Chronicles on Wii.
You serious?
Luckily, that meant to me that Shulk's story would stay untouched, but the fanbase was still getting some more Xenoblade story goodness. I managed to get my hands on the special edition, played the game on launch, and I remember getting those same vibes in the prologue from Xenoblade Chronicles that X failed to give me. My intention behind this video is to discuss why Xenoblade Chronicles 2 serves as an excellent successor to the original, primarily in terms of story. However, I'd like to briefly examine the other aspects that Xenoblade 2 tries to improve upon or mimic in its final product, such as gameplay, characters, and music. Since story is the biggest component that makes Xenoblade 2 so special to me and many fans, I'll be discussing that in full following my brief descriptions of these other factors. With that said, let's dive in. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 plays very well. Yes, the game is incredibly slow to start because you don't have a full party until a decent amount into the game, both free party members and free blades on each character, which is when the game truly shines. But overall, it feels very polished. Gone is the vision mechanic that defines Xenoblade Chronicles 1, and in comes the blade system, which revolves around switching a character's blades out mid-combat to set up for combos, stack buffs, or debuffs. I've always liked how Xenoblade's combat plays a role in the development of story themes rather than just adding it for the sake of being interesting. Side quests are still mediocre, but there's always a funny or heartwarming one, like finding out that the original Nopons pretended to be dumb just to trick people into getting what they want. However, the way to keep track of side quests in this game is much better and not nearly as much of a hassle. The chain attack idea of breaking orbs to extend the duration and damage is also more interesting to me than Xenoblade 1's version of stacking different forms of arts. Overall, Xenoblade 2's gameplay just feels like an improvement of the formula. And then there's Torna combat, which is absolute perfection. Holy crap, I could keep going. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is also beautiful, so long as you're not playing in handheld. Each area feels incredibly distinct, from the lush green plains of Gormat to the snowy tundras of Tantal to the desolate, mystery-filled wasteland of Morifa. Not only are these different in appearance, but enemy types, general geography, and the music, oh man, we'll get to that. An area like Gormat has a spacious, flat layout with the exception of an ascending waterfall or hill in the north, while an area like the Spirit Crucible Elpis is tightly packed into a series of winding tunnels and caverns. The key word to describe Xenoblade is variety. In a JRPG that can easily exceed 50 hours on the main story alone, this is crucial to keeping the player interested in building a world that has room to grow outside the exact details provided by the writers. Speaking of long JRPGs, having a killer soundtrack is a necessity, and the music might very well be what the Xenoblade series is best known for. I have a personal rule that if a title lacks a strong normal battle theme, with some exceptions, then the game's doing itself a disservice. Final Fantasy VII and Golden Sun nail this, and I'd be lying if Xenoblade 2's battle theme wasn't the pinnacle. Give it a listen. But Xenoblade doesn't settle for just one standard battle theme. Oh no, we have 4 depending on your progression for the game. Each area even has a different song for the day and night cycle. Feel that the day version of Tantal is a bit too high energy for a snow level? Change the time to night and enjoy the calmer music. Or maybe it's the inverse and you think the mellow nighttime version of More Ardain isn't what you're in the mood for. Then ramp that shit up and start jamming cause oh my god! I could keep going on about Xenoblade's music, but I'll flash a couple song titles on screen and suggest them a listen. As for characters, I hear a very common consensus that Xenoblade 2's cast is better than 1's, and while I disagree with that, I do really enjoy the characters in this game. Pyra brings a calm presence to the group and almost has this motherly-like personality to her. Mithra, who, I'm not going to lie, I didn't really like that much at first, really grew on me, primarily due to her role in Torna, a topic for another time. Zeke is a lovable doof that embodies everything I love in a macho man with a heart of gold character. Nia can be sassy as hell, but still has a lot of troubles of her own, and definitely the fan favorite that,
Nia, I love you too. I love you, and all you guys.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
Yikes. And then we have the one, the only, Special Inquisitor Morag. God, I love everything about Morag. Her design is incredible. She has a strong passion to serve her homeland, which guides her morals, even if she might have personal disagreements with her own code, and she's...
Sublime.
Yeah, that. But how can I talk about Xenoblade 2's characters without talking about the star of the show, Rex? Rex gets a lot of hate, since a lot of people think Rex is a stereotypical shonen character, and because, quite frankly, his screaming sounds like a dying whale. But I actually like Rex a lot. He's not the most interesting character of the cast, but he's a kid that's trying to make the best of his life he was given, and we can see the evolution of his character from his first interaction with Pyra to the final encounter with Malos. Rex starts off as a chipper kid that is definitely infatuated with Pyra, which prompts him to take her to Elysium. But the two do build a bond over the course of the game, and Rex realizes that his connection to her has taken the blunt force of his stubborn, childlike attitude. And once he realizes that, it's embodied in the unlocking of the third sword. If we compare Rex to Shulk, it's gonna be a bad time. Especially in the scream acting department, cause like... I'll kill you! How do you beat that? Like, seriously, how? But they each have their own merits. Shulk's story is about revenge and finding himself along his journey once he's able to push away the emotions clouding his perspective. While Rex's story is about a boy dead set on helping a friend, or more, reach their goal and finding out how his actions and behavior can have negative effects on those around him. Rex, he's a good boy. I realize that there are a lot of gameplay variables and even some characters I didn't talk about much, like how the hell could I glance over Malos and Jin? I'm sorry, Poppy fans, by the way. However, the reason behind this section was to give a brief look at how Xenoblade 2 manages to provide a strong experience by staying true to its roots and expanding upon the formula in other aspects. But there's one aspect in particular that makes Xenoblade 2 one of the best experiences on the Nintendo Switch: the story. As the game continued on, I found the story to have some solid moments, but there was definitely a thought that lied present in the mind of myself and other Xenoblade fans. How is this game going to possibly surpass or be equal to Xenoblade Chronicles 1? And thus, Fan Meets Chapter 7. Those couple seconds right there hold so much weight. For context, we need to go back to the original Xenoblade Chronicles. The path leading toward the finale of the first game has a whole web of twists and turns, from discovering that Fiora is alive as a face mechon and shares her body with the soul of the Mechonis, Mainif, and the soul of the Bionis, also known as Zanza, has inhabited Shulk's body ever since he killed him at a young age, and is finally awoken to destroy Mainif and the Mechonis once and for all. Woo! Did you get all that? The party moves towards the finish line, where Shulk awakens his true Monado and moves in to deliver a finishing blow to Zanza. Elvis reveals that Zanza was originally known as Klaus, and him and Mainif were both scientists. However, Klaus's desire for power beyond him led to the destruction of the universe and the birth of the Xenoblade Chronicles world. Going back to Xenoblade Chronicles 2, that planet exploding was the death of the universe from Xenoblade Chronicles 1. I remember standing up with my hands on my head like some cliche reaction, pacing around the room, and soon after ranting to some friends that knew nothing about Xenoblade because the scene had me that messed up. Like, hey, remember all those quotes and articles saying that these games were not connected? Yeah, that was bullshit. Well, I guess not entirely false, because if you look at the quotes closely, then they kind of beat around the bush, and... Listen, they must have known they would get asked and planned some of these answers, because they had me fooled. If you want to get an accurate representation of how fans and myself reacted to this short teaser, check out Etika's reaction on stream.
Love ain't fair.
Oh my god! Did I really just see that? Holy shit! Holy shit! Holy shit! Oh my god, wait a minute, was that real? Whoa, go back. This game's connected. It's literally connected, bro. This game is connected. I thought they were separate. This game's connected. Oh my god, wait a second, what does this mean? What?
So so many questions arise from this, like who the hell was the architect? Was that person in the vision Shulk? That would make sense because touching the sword gave Rex a vision, or was it somebody else? So many possibilities rush through my mind, but oh no, it doesn't stop there. Up until this point, there's been plenty of cute, small references to Xenoblade 1 and the presence of Aether, Mithra's foresight, and so on, but Chapter 7 lets you know, welcome to the real world. Fast forward to the first fight against Malice, and he pulls out a freaking Monado! I think even people that don't know Xenoblade 1 that much might be thinking, oh hey, that's cool. But I was getting excitingly frustrated if that's even a thing. Were they playing with me, or was this the real deal? Like, he even says Monado, Cyclone Eater, and Armor, which were all optional arts in Xenoblade Chronicles 1. It's like this game was teasing us at this point. So you beat Malos, fight Jin and him together, Pyra and Mithra dye their hair, and the game just keeps going from there on a roller coaster of hype. While this isn't a direct reference, was anybody thinking that Morifa was potentially New LA from Xenoblade Chronicles X? With all the past references, it seemed possible to me, at least at the time. Regardless, great event after great event happens, but there's less references to Xenoblade 1 until we hit the Mother Lode in the beginning of the final chapter, and thus, Boy Met Girl. I absolutely love this title, by the way, and this might very well be my favorite cutscene in the entirety of the Xenoblade series. As soon as Klaus was name-dropped, my heart sank. And as soon as Klaus said, let's begin the experiment, it's almost as if I had been taken back to the 2014 college me. Taking something as memorable as Klaus's destruction of the universe and adding more context, amazing music, and even character development. So, not only does the scene provide more lore to potentially expand upon with the Saviorite rebels and how the world was before Klaus destroyed it, but we see Klaus less as the single-minded, power-hungry fool that was portrayed in the first game, and now as a man that is determined and foolish, but has a reason for wanting to create a brand new universe beyond a lust for power. Humans are flawed. We've seen this in Xenoblade Chronicles 2 with the relationship between blades and humans. Even the way humans treat each other, since Amalthus is living proof of the cruelty they possess, which in turn created a cycle that lasted centuries because one man became consumed by these feelings of anger, which he took to heart. The war between nations like Morardain and Uriah, despite the fleeting life of the titans they each inhabit. The scene also gives Mainith, before she became a god, a name, which is Galea. It finally ends with the same man we saw in Chapter 7 as the architect reflecting back on a decision that was made by saying, fools indeed. Everything in this introduction to Chapter 10 adds up into the perfect way to kick off this finale, which is outstanding. Elysium is a barren wasteland with haunting music and beautiful imagery of man's hubris showing its effect on society with the broken down buildings and the lone church. Eventually, the party meets the architect, and it is fully revealed that he is the very same Klaus that created a new universe. However, he has been torn in two, and the version of Klaus in Xenoblade Chronicles 1, also known as Zanza, is half of him. The half that embodies the thirst for divinity and power that consumed him in the experiment. Xenoblade Chronicles 2's Klaus, or the shell that was left over, is riddled with grief and regret for the sin he has committed, and all Valrus is his way to atone. What this means is that Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2 are running together at the exact same time. Freaking brilliant. A fear I and numerous fans had was that Xenoblade Chronicles 2 would ruin Shulk's ending in Xenoblade 1 if it continued, but they took the best route possible by connecting it to the original while keeping its elements intact. Tetsuya Takahashi, if you're the man responsible for this, I salute you. So before we move on to the final scene of importance regarding the connection to Xenoblade 1, there's this interesting mention of a third blade alongside Logos and Numa, Malos and Pyra or Mithra respectively, known as Ontos. While Ontos' identity is never fully confirmed, it's incredibly likely that the third blade is actually Alvis from Xenoblade Chronicles 1. I saw somebody on Reddit, my apologies that I can't remember the name, but they pointed out that both Pyra and Alvis happen to know the name of the main character upon first interaction, despite never hearing the name before. There's also incredibly similar wording when Alvis reveals his true origin and Klaus explains what happened to Ontos, so that he does not appear in the world of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. There's also the fact that Mithra has the ability to give the wielder foresight, much like the Monado, which Alvis is said to be at the end of the game. Most people are pretty set on Ontos being Alvis, and I completely buy it. But I would not complain if somehow Ontos was woven into a Xenoblade Chronicles 3 in the future. So the final big connection happens in the climactic encounter between the main party and Malos, who is inside the most powerful artifice, Ion. This is a wonderfully choreographed cutscene that also manages to give the player some insight into the development of Rex and Malice's morals. Rex even takes the words of Vandam into account when he says that he's fighting for himself. Also, big shout out to Al Weaver for really nailing this yell.
Then that's my role in this world!
This one really hits it home. But Malos, man, literal goosebumps. The voice acting mixed with the slightest facial expressions really helps sell Malos as a character in this last minute questioning of who's really right in the end.
And how many people died because of it? You'd forgive him just like that?
As the scene seems to be transitioning back into the battle, players are given one last treat.
Today, we use our power to fell a god, and then seize our destiny! Today, we use our power to fell a god, and then seize our destiny!
Okay, so not only is this little moment really awesome, but it paints a perfect image of when the Xenoblade 1 universe is in relationship to that of Allrest. Shulk is just about to deliver the final blow to cut Zanza in half right as Rex and Numa are about to do the same thing to Malos and Ion. It beautifully syncs up and echoes the similar nature and game structure of both Xenoblade titles. And it's also just really freaking cool. And just like that, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 has almost reached its end. Rex has another really strong moment of desperation to save Numa, the cast leaves the world tree, and then Pyra and Mifra both come back. We're then left with two questions. Do these two still retain their memories? And is the new world the cast has entered the same world that Shulk created at the end of Xenoblade 1? I think these are both best left for the player to decide, and much like Xenoblade 1, this ending to me is best left untouched. Hey guys, I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching and making it to the end of this video. This is honestly something I've wanted to do since 2015, just making a video talking about Xenoblade Chronicles, which is one of my favorite series of all time. And, you know, here's hoping to making some more content in the future about this series, so if there's anything specifically you would want to see, maybe talking about like character analysis, Torna, or even just talk about Xenoblade Chronicles 1, feel free to just leave it in a comment down below, and I'll definitely check them out. Also, if you did enjoy this video, feel free to drop a like if you'd want, or consider subscribing to the channel. That way I could just kind of tell that people are enjoying this kind of content. But yeah, thanks again, and I will see you guys next time.